Shalom, shalom, anak nawaha e barish Allah walakim la'atam. Call Shabuai Baharakha Wakakshah Yahweh Bahasham Yahushua Ma'amath, which is truly. Hey, with the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushua to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian Haitians, Israelite foreigners, Nachamatam, Kayam Lakwath Hashemayim, Korah, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Call Layim La, Yahweh Bahasham Yahushua Bahasham Chahakodash, Wamashanaka Badim Zukoyim Nawa. Wamala Akim Shoya Shalazukoin Rakhagadawa Wachasad Washalawam Wabarakim Laha Bakharim Shah Ha Gawaya Shala Shalawam. So all praise to the Most High Yahweh, which means he exists by Hashem in the name Yahweh Shai delivers. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Israel, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. And mercy, peace, and blessings to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom, which means peace. This is the article in RT. It reads from the photo, it says Amhara for no militia fighters walk in the ransacked terminal at the Libla Bela airport in Libla Bela on December 7th, 2021. It says heavy fighting erupts in northern Ethiopia, which, if I'm not mistaken, it goes into Kawash, which is Kush. It says, actually, I'm going to go to that. Yep, Ethiopia. Kawash. So it says, going back, it says clashes between Ethiopia's military and the local Fano militia flared up in several areas of conflict-torn Amhara region, according to the local media on Wednesday. The authorities have expressed concern about significant human casualties. More than a dozen people were injured when Fano fighters, also known as Amhara militia, fought with the Ethiopian National Defense Force troops near the town on Debre Tabor on Tuesday and Wednesday. Reuters reported citing a doctor at a local hospital and a police officer. According to the unnamed doctor, the hospital has admitted 3 people with severe injuries and 10 others with minor injuries from gunshots to heavy weapons. Movement has been restricted as fighters have blocked all roads in the city of Gondar and elsewhere in Amhara, where Fano fighters are battling NF forces, the Addis Standard reported. On Tuesday, the militia reportedly took control of a major airport in the town of Lalablea, or however you say that, which is home to a UNESCO World Heritage Site, forcing flights to be canceled. Yokal Kafale, president of Amhara, told the media on Wednesday that the region's economic activity continues to suffer as a result of violent encounters between state forces and militias, in addition to deaths of civilians. So pretty much what we're seeing is, like a militia is like almost like a small like paramilitary group, people that join forces, that's not necessarily, or they can like a coup almost, so they cannot necessarily be in agreement with like the local government or the government that's already set up, so that's pretty much going into sedition. So let's get a quick precept. This is 2nd Isaiah, also Esdras, chapter 15 and verse 16, which Esdras named Isaiah by Barith in Hebrew goes into a help. It says, verse 15, it says, "For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands go into killing instruments," which we're seeing in this article and various other encounters you see over the last couple of years. The sword and the destruction draweth nigh. You see, we're seeing people fight up against another, and fighting. We're seeing wars and rumors of wars. We're seeing nations against nations. We're pretty much just seeing different battles, different clashes between two groups of people. All right, it says, "in swords in their hands," killing instruments. continuing on, or let me go back to that. It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. All right, so sedition going into a violent uprising. All right, we're seeing the different military coups, the militias, the paramilitaries, rising up against the the governments. It says, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, because they got different laws set in place over there, and they're not necessarily regarding the leadership that's already set up. You see, they have their own militia organization or hierarchy already set up. You see, so they're going up against the government structure that's already set up in that particular country in Ethiopia, Kawash. It says, in the course of their power, in the course of their action shall stand in their power, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people taking things into their own hands, so to speak. So continuing on, it says, what's that? It says, an anonymous diplomatic source told Reuters that the conflict started when the NDF launched an operation to drive the paramilitary group out of Kobo and other towns. Amhara has been dealing with heavy clashes and widespread protests since April, when the government ordered regional forces, including the Fano fighters, to integrate into the federal military or police. So they was like, all right, they could see that they already had military skills, so to speak. So they're like, all right, join the forces, but that's not what they're doing. I'm gonna get another precept. Let's get 2nd Esdras, chapter 9. It says, he answered me then and said, this is 2nd Esdras, chapter 9 and verse 1. He said, answer me then. And so he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. We're in the times to where the Lord is beginning to visit the world. He's sending the plagues. One plague that's going on right now is the thing with the weather. It's pushing forth the famine. You see, and it's also having an effect on the economy. It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people of the world, earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Even so the times also the highest have plain beginnings and wonder and powerful works and endings and effects. And endings in effects and signs. All right, but point being, the end is manifest. All right, we're seeing earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, because this goes into an uproar. It says, because they had, it says Amhara has been dealing with heavy clashes and widespread protests since April. All right, continuing on, the Amhara militia fought alongside federal troops and Eritrean armies in a two-year civil war in the neighboring Tigray region, which resulted in an estimated 100,200 battle-related deaths, according to a report by the Peace Research Institute, Oslo, Prio. Prio named the Tigray War, which ended with a peace deal in November of last year, the world's deadliest conflict in 2022, having had the highest number of battle-related fatalities in state-based conflicts since 1994. NDF spokesperson Colonel Getnet Adane warned on Tuesday that the action will be taken against armed groups. Disturbing the country's peace in the name of Fano. However, Kefale has urged the fighters to lay down their arms and resolve issues through dialogue. Yeah, so pretty much we're seeing a lot of infighting. So I'm going to get a couple more precepts. This is Yeshaya Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 2. It says, and I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptian. All right, and this is going into America. It says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother. You see, but you can apply this to Ethiopia, Kawash. because they got infighting over there. They got the regular government, but then they also got the coups and the paramilitary and the militias over there, and they're pretty much having a civil war. Civil war is pretty much inside of a certain place. It says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom. All right, we're seeing that infighting right now in these various different places. All right, let's get a couple more. Let's get Matthew chapter 24 and verse 7. It says, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All right, which we're seeing that. We're seeing the nation against nation. All right, Russia, Ukraine, Taiwan, China. And there shall be famines and pestilences. All right, we're seeing famine. Famine is increasing. All right, we're seeing the plague sent, pushing forth for that famine. It says pestilences. There's a lot of there's been a lot of pestilences. All right, you just had the 19. You know, you had the monkey wrench. You know, and many, many more. It's even a plague of like leprosy down in Florida. It says in earthquakes. All right, it's been earthquakes all the time. You know, in diverse places. You know, so we're seeing those. You know, the end. We're seeing the end being manifested. All right, it's obvious. It's clear that we're in the end. You see. So Adawan Rantazaza Banaya Palo is with those a beautiful edification through the spirit. Wa Adawan Rantaza Yash Salak Adawan Rantaza Thumb Yash Yawan Tawablos. Will you have a good day? Shalom, shalom.